Welcome back to our video training series. In this video, we're going to be discussing our pre-submission due diligence process. Now, once again, we understand starting a new venture can be complicated and overwhelming. To ease the strain and streamline the process, and because of all the options available and their complexities, we simplified it by creating a structured step-by-step procedure for you to follow. It's designed to set you up for success from the very beginning, narrowing down the choices, saving you time, and providing you an idea of which direction to go in when you're creating the proposals. You see, we're in a very unique position where we can offer the customer a myriad of options and flexibility. The customer has a choice. They can pay cash, they can finance it, or they can lease the system. Freedom Forever is our main installation company. And we may be adding additional companies to fill in the missing coverage areas and provide additional flexibility. To demonstrate how complicated it could be, currently Freedom Forever alone uses Mosaic as their finance company and offers 75 different loan products to choose from. In addition, they also work with 5 different leasing companies that all offer their own leasing products. Each company works in specific states and all work with different utility companies within those states. Meaning, just because a company works in a specific state does not mean they work with all the utility companies within that state. Nor does it mean just because one company works with one utility company, all the companies working in that state work with the same utility company. They all have their own requirements. In addition, they offer many different equipment options and services. The advantage is that we're not offering a one-size-fits-all option to the customer. Each deal is customized to fit the customer's needs, wants, and comfort level. Basically, we're offering something for everyone rather than trying to shoehorn a deal just to make a sale or use your own personal bias to influence the outcome. We want you to approach it as if you were an advocate for the customer, selling them first the idea of solar and letting the customer sell themselves on which product and options to choose. The pre-submission process simplifies it for you by narrowing down the choices and options available to you so you're not overwhelmed and do not know where to begin. All right, so let's talk about the pre-submission due diligence process. At this point, you already received the basic information when you set the appointment and filled out the web form. You should have found out that the customer owns the house, what type of home it is, what utility company they have, and how much their average utility bills is. You also want to know what type of roof they have, what the shading situation is, what their combined taxable household income is, and what their credit is like, what their marriage status is, and any other specific information the customer shared with you at this point. So to demonstrate, I created a new web form to use as an example. All right, so I already pre-filled this out to save us time. We're going to put 25% shade. We're going to use composite shingle. We're going to pick the utility company from the drop-down box. And in this case, it's going to be Florida Power and Light. We're going to set the appointment using the calendar. We'll set it for tomorrow and then use this drop-down box for what time it is. We're then going to hit submit. Make sure the data is added so you know that it's already there. Now we want to verify the information and narrow down our possible choices. The pre-submission process provides you with all the information you're going to need to decide which company to use when creating the baseline proposals. There are 8 steps involved with the process. As you go through them, you're going to be filling out the answers in the form for easy reference uh, when it comes time to create the proposal later on. So to access the form, we're going to log into the CRM. I'm going to hit submit. And then on the left-hand side, you have a list of choices. We're going to find the submission report. Now, notice that this only lists the last 5 days of submissions. If you're looking for a lead older than 5 days, you scroll up to the top and use the calendar for the date that you want to start the search and the end date that you want to end the search. Using the drop down, you just fill it out and then hit go, and it'll populate every lead that you submitted within that time. So at this point, we're going to be looking for the customer that we want. In this case, it's Dennis Lane. We're going to scroll over to the phone number and we're going to left click it. And that's going to open up the form for you. You'll notice at the top, the web form that we just created. And we're going to go to step 1. Step 1 being the sales lookup tool. To access it, we're going to go to the Freedom Forever portal and we're going to navigate to sales lookup. And I'm going to do 2 different examples for you. Once you find the sales lookup, you're going to enter the zip code. So for this first example, we're going to use a completely different zip code and make sure the city is correct using the drop down. In this case, it is. We're going to select the utility company. In this case, it's going to be Encore. And it's going to populate the results. It's going to tell you the finance types permitted. In this case, we can do cash, we can do a loan, lease, and PPP. Unfortunately, it does not tell us what companies we could work with. The branch, it's going to come out, the installation company is going to be coming out of Lubbock, Texas. It is eligible for safe streets. There is no adder. We have a TOU utility, which stands for time of use rates. Some utilities are beginning to introduce time of use rate structures. The goal is to incentivize customers to consume energy when the cost of generating electricity is cheap and charge more when the cost of generating electricity is high. When both the cost of generation and demand for electricity are high, the electric rate is much higher. The rates vary by season or weekends and holidays and multiple periods over an individual day. So it's important that you notate it if the answer is yes. All right. It's going to tell you the homeowner's insurance, if it's required or not, the average processing time, and the average pre-installation approval time. Please note, they are not meant to be taken as gospel. It's an estimation based off of things beyond our control, specifically the permitting and utility approval time. When you speak with the customer, explain that the average is about 45 days, but you've seen approval times in as less than, in this case, 7 days. All right, so note that it's not meant to be taken as gospel. All right. Now, if there was an adder here, You're going to put that adder into the adder sheet. Make sure so you don't forget. Um, if not, if you don't add it, it's going to be deducted from your commission. Hence why it's so important to do the due diligence ahead of time. So what we're going to do is, in this case, we're going to use a different zip code. We're going to use the one that we did, 34953, 353. Whoop. And going to find the city. In this case, it's going to be Port St. Lucie. The utility company, again, is Florida Power and Light. And in this case, we're going to copy all this information and we're going to put it into our form. Now, once again, you're going to have access to this, so you can go back to it when you create the proposal. You want all the information in one place where it's going to be saved. You're going to hit update, hit OK. Which brings us to step 2, the red line and utility company lookup. Now you'll notice that it lists the red lines, both with self-generated leads and if we supplied the leads for you. Now, why is that important? Well, the lower the red line, the higher the commission for you. So obviously you're going to want to choose as your first choice the one with the lowest red line. It's also going to let you know which ones work with that utility. So in this case, we can do purchase or finance, Enfin, Sunrun, and Sonova. And in this case, they only offer leases with this utility company. We're going to update that. We're going to hit OK. And we're going to go to step 3. Now, step 3 is the Zillow lookup. We're going to navigate to Zillow.com to see what the house looks like ahead of time. And we're going to find out the information about the property. So I pre-navigated to it. It's going to be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. It's roughly 1,311 square feet. Once again, we have the address. And we can either hit home details or we can scroll down. Read the overview. So it comes with a screened in pool and spa. All right, it's a single family home. It was built in 1995. Air is central. And everything else you need to know about it. We're going to populate that into the form. And we're single family home. It was built in 94. Home value was 365,000 roughly, 1,311 square feet, etc. All right. Now we're going to go to the county property or tax appraiser lookup. All right. Before we get there, there's something else I want to mention. Sometimes with Zillow, you cannot get a view of the roof. So in that case, you might want to navigate over to Google Maps and we can see what the house looks like from above. All right. Now, one thing to note here, at best, both Zillow images and the Google Maps satellite image are at best 85% accurate because we don't know if it's the right home. We don't know when the satellite image was taken. In this case, these are very dear friends of mine. I know that this picture is at least 3 or 4 years old. The house next to them, it has solar, as does this house. I know they don't own these two vehicles anymore, and I know that they have a new roof, and I know that some of these trees are not there. They were cut down. So it's very important that you don't take stock in the picture itself. That's something you're going to want to confirm with the customer, all the information. It's just basically giving you a general idea of what you're dealing with ahead of time. All right. So we're going to go to the property search or the county property appraiser's office. We're going to put in the address. Now you can search by address or you can search by owner search in most of these websites. And the reason why we're doing this is we want to find out who the listed owner is. All right, the last thing we want to do is be selling to somebody that's not listed on the home. All right. Or if it's listed as a LLC or a corporation that owns it. We want to find out ahead of time so we know how to deal with it and not have to go backwards and jump through hoops to make the deal work. We want to know ahead of time what we're dealing with. So in this case, we have both Dennis and Linda Lane. That's good because we spoke to Dennis and we set the appointment with him. So we're going to enter that information into the step 4 here. And we're going to want to find out when it was last sold. So how long have they owned the house? Now, in this case, it lists a sales price of $100. That's because they refinanced it. If you want to drill down, you can look at the record card and you can see that it was purchased back in 2013 by Dennis Lane. It was in a bank repo before that, and Orlando Rivera owned it before that. Right. So these are things you're going to want to know ahead of time. All right. Again, the reason why we're going through this exercise is we want to be proactive and not reactive. We want to know what to do and how to do it before we get there. Once you go through these websites, whether it's the different property appraiser offices, you're going to want to bookmark them so you have a list of them. So next time you want to go to that county, you already have it rather than spending time to look for it each and every time. All right, that brings us to step 5. And what we're going to do here is we're going to be reviewing the guidelines and requirements that each company has. We're narrowing down the options because in this case, let's say in this case, it was a trust or an LLC or an S Corp that owned it. We could not use NFIN. All right. It lists each company on the top and the different requirements are here on the left-hand side. So you want to familiarize yourself with them and what the requirements are. And once you finish that, you're going to want to see which ones still remain as companies meet with all of the requirements. In other words, they work with the utility company, they work in that state, and the customer and their house meets all their requirements. So in this case, They do meet with Mosaic, with Enfin, uh, Sonova, and Sunrun. I'm sorry, Sonova is not because they don't deal in Florida at the moment, but they will be as soon as they figure it out. All right, so step 7 is the adder sheet. Adders are the extra costs for options that are added to the base model. Think of it as like buying a car. It's important to get the adders correct, because if you get it wrong, the cost will come out of your commission if the customer refuses to pay for it after the fact. Therefore, we want to notate it. And as we discover them going through the process, we want to notate them. So in this case, we want to put in a miscellaneous amount. We'll put 1,500 just in case something goes wrong. We know that there's 7 different panes for the roof. So we want to put that in. And any other things that we know ahead of time. As we discover stuff, we're going to add to it. So again, it's notated and we always go back to it when we're designing the systems to make sure we have all the adders. All right. Step 8, we want to do a Google search for articles, customer specific utility company regarding rate increases. So in Google search, let's say it was FP&L, just put in the search FP&L increases, and it'll list every article that has to do with rate increases for Google or for FP&L. All right. The reason why it's important is when it comes time to do the presentation, we want to be prepared for it and we want to show the customer the results to build more pain for them. All right. We want to show them that the rates are going to be increasing and build as much pain as possible. Right. Um, More or less customizing the presentation for them, building credibility by going the extra mile. We just want to notate the websites where the Google search is and save it for later. Again, when it comes time to do the presentation, you could just go right to it. All right. So as you can see, by completing this form, it uncomplicates things and streamlines the process by narrowing down the choices for you. Just takes a few minutes to complete. By doing the initial extra work in the beginning, it's going to save you twice the amount of time uh, and work later on. As they say, we want to measure twice and only cut once. One example to illustrate my point is, let's say we just wanted to figure out what utility companies or what uh, companies work with what utility companies. Well, if we wanted to do that, we'd have to navigate back to Freedom. We'd have to go to their sales resource center, wait for it to populate. Then we would go to the finance payment options. And then one by one, we would have to start and open up each one of the companies. Again, there's 6, 1 for finance and 5 for leasing. So we'll start with Enfin, and then we'd have to look for their active utility list, open it up, wait for it to populate. And then we'd scroll to the state. In this case, it would be Florida. And then we'd have to look up the utility company and then notate that Enfin is an option. We would then have to repeat the process and do it for each company. So as you can see, this saves you a whole lot of time and instantaneously not only shows you what company works with what utility company all in one place, but it also lets you know what red lines there are. So you know how to uh, how to choose which company to work with first when creating these proposals. All right, it's literally going to save you hours and hours and hours of work. All right. Um, for those that don't know, Freedom currently um, works in 35 states, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico at the moment, and we're expanding from there. So you can see just this one step alone, how complicated it could be. And we just simplified it for you. If we were only working in one state and one geographic area within that state, it'd be easy. All right. But again, we're in at the moment 35 states, the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico, and literally deal with over 3,000 utility companies. All right. Once you set the appointment and completed the due diligence process, it's now time to create your proposals. Um, where possible, we want you to create two starting point proposals, one each for the lease and the other for the purchase. As you can imagine, creating these proposals takes time. So we want you to create these baseline proposals ahead of the appointment because of the time they take to create. The last thing you want to do is create these proposals on the fly with the customer watching on and getting bored to tears. All right. Also, we want you to be prepared ahead of time so you have a basic understanding of what it is you're talking about and know what the pitfalls are that lay ahead and not be surprised when talking to the customer. So at this point, all you have is the basic information on the customer. You verified it using uh, both Zillow and the property appraiser's office, verifying ownership. Uh, you're going to find out what the customer's needs, wants, and comfort level are when making the presentation by asking your probing questions at that time. That information will determine which proposal to demonstrate first, then use the other one as a counterbalance, allowing the customer to sell themselves because they can now make an educated based off the pros and cons of each option you presented. So to do that, we need a starting point for each proposals. These bare bone baseline proposals will be adjusted accordingly based off the answers to your probing questions that you ask on the presentation. This will be discussed in the upcoming training videos for each company in detail. All right, please let us know if you have any questions, uh, want clarification on something, or just want to have a general conversation. All right, everybody, thanks for your patience and your time. Um, please reach out to us. Thank you so much.